it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're focusing in on a poignant viewer question, and that was really to explore in depth the quiet borderline personality disorder and how this presents in personal relationships, either with someone who you're married to, is a family member, a sibling, a parent, or someone that you work with. Either way, it's providing a source of conflict, issues, difficulty, emotional pain, and it's really getting in the way. It's getting in the way of your happiness, your fulfillment, your peace, your harmony, and furthermore, it could be injuring you or injuring other family members. And a quiet borderline personality disorder is typified by a kind of a calm exterior, but yet underneath there is a character disorder, the cluster B, which is known as borderline personality disorder. And what typifies or what distinguishes this from covert narcissism is really the lack of superiority. So it's not so much as a self-importance that is driving the fundamental flawed behavior, oftentimes which results in excessive control and raging. So there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hostility, there's a lot of fighting. There's also a lack of empathy, but it's not so much that this individual has a heightened sense of self-importance. It's really more prevalent by a lack of feeling of self-importance, or really a very pathological self-loathing. So there's an overcompensation of this. There is an overcompensation which is exemplified in the need to control, monitor, and manipulate others. So when we talk about controlling, it can be very micromanagement of people's behaviors, their thought patterns, their existence. And so the controlling can take a constant sort of self-sabotaging of them, where they rage out and they become very alienating of others, very isolating of others through this toxic hostility and trying to control others. So it's a lashing out of others or a projection of really the deep-seated issues that they have within. So oftentimes a borderline personality disorder will outright tell you, I've never felt attractive. I've never felt loved. I never feel cute. I never feel, they might tell you this, but, they try to control and manage for this deep feeling of emptiness by controlling and managing the reactions of others. So it gives them a sense of being in control. And it gives them a sense of being, in control of the items or people in their environment. So they feel kind of on top of things. They feel a sense of emotional management while they're controlling others. But it's really what ends up surprising themselves and others is this sort of lashing out. These, they know that they tend to fly off the handle. They tend to lose it. They tend to be very judgmental, critical, and constantly judging and trying to control others. Look at this person, look at that. Having a lot of opinionated statements about others, being very other-focused versus self-managed and in control. So originally in the relationship, this might be, everyone talks about other people or gossips, but this becomes a very pervasive pattern. And oftentimes very problematic in that it tends to, get quite in the way of your relationship with them or child raising. And we have a lot of videos, I think, that we're going to be diving into this week on this very topic. They tend to be very projective onto others of this fear of abandonment and this sort of self-loathing. So if you are able to kind of understand, I know we had a viewer question, what is the difference between someone who is borderline and someone who is, covert narcissism is definitely kind of this high prevalence of rage, irritability, mood lability, which means, impulsive mood, very impulsive, very, uncertain, creates a lot of chaos and, sort of hectic environment in which they're always trying to control, manage, micromanage. And oftentimes it's oftentimes typified at this lashing out, this impulsive lashing out onto others, which through anger, judgment, criticism, hostility, negativizing, awfulizing, black and white thinking and assessment of situations, oftentimes which are oftentimes verging on psychotic or really have no basis or foundation in reality. So we see this over perception, we see this awfulizing, we see this projection and insinuating of negative qualities onto people and situations which oftentimes are not founded in reality. So it tends to become very painful and very difficult and very uncomfortable for people in their environment, particularly the people who they are married to, who have they children with, and sometimes people who really adapt to them really end up basically, shying away from confronting it. They do not want to deal with it. They don't want to go up against the fan that's trying to, project all this. They don't want to go up against this rageaholic. They don't want to go up against this borderline who, is very quiet, but then kind of, explosive. And if you've ever witnessed it, it is very scary. These people can lash out. They can do it while they're driving. It's just like they just hit a emotional landmine of accusations, guilt, anger, and it's very unfounded. Meaning, it very oftentimes has very unrooted in and very uncalled for that situation. So, what might be very minuscule or minor is just blown way out of proportion. So they tend to be very controlling of people and situations. For example, the littlest, smallest of tiniest of things can set them off into this borderline rage, which is, they could be driving along and you could have a big gulp pop and, you might put it, or you might be holding it, or you might put it the wrong way in the cup holder. And then next thing, they're yelling, screaming, lashing out how they're going to stop the car, they're going to pull over, and you don't drink your drink this way, and raging out of control and making these wild and impulsive accusations that just swerve out of control. And so most people end up just getting very quiet and just trying to not react. And some people then just explain away their behavior. Oh, that's just how they are. But, eventually it becomes to wear and tear on your nerves. It becomes to wear and tear on your psyche. And especially for those people who are young, small, immature, kids, toddlers, children, teenagers, even in the early 20s and into the 30s, they don't have the psychological development to understand that they are really not the cause of this. So very young children, teenagers, 20s, 30s, and even people who, unbeknownst to them, this type of person that's, relationship issues that are now developing, they think that there is something, inherently wrong with them. So they tend to internalize these rage outbursts that, I am inherently flawed. I can't do this. I am broken. I am setting this off. And then they tend to then generalize, this to their very self-esteem. They tend to, say that there is something wrong with me. I can't live at peace. I can't live at harmony. I can't be myself, because there's something wrong with me. What I do, what I say, how I dress, how I talk, how my hair is, how my drink is. There's always something wrong that they're going to find to nitpick and basically focus in on and then blow way out of proportion. So, the anger is way up here, for something that really oftentimes doesn't even provoke. So they tend to cause they're trying to trigger a lot of anger and reaction as if, that they're just by virtue of their personality disorder, they're trying to cause and provoke a fight, and it's very destructive and not a good way to spend your life is in this negative rut. So realize, begin to look at this person's traits as perhaps a quiet borderline personality disorder, and we're going to be talking in length really if this really kind of examines you, or you feel that this is you. We're going to look at ways and really sort of discussing, how you can get this back managed under control, how you can get these, rages to subdue, how you can begin to see it coming, how you can identify triggers, and, try to calm down and saying, okay, this is where I tend to overperceive. This is where I tend to overreact. This is where I tend to rage, and this is why the cause of my outbursts. And so now if I can better understand the cause of this, that I can now begin to calm it down, quench the fire, get things in perspective, because oftentimes the borderline is very accepting of change. And really, when we learn to understand the cause of this, with the intelligence, they can see, and the pattern, the behavioral patterns which aren't serving them, which are causing problems for them and in their life and in their relationships. And eventually, they can get to the point where they can really see, okay, this is destructive. This is causing trouble for me. This temper flares, these anger flares, this is not giving me the control that I think it's giving me. So I'm really going to learn to look at the cause and look at the effect and learn to kind of let go of that erroneous cause. So if you see a lot of this raging, this oftentimes is, the borderline impulse, the sort of lashing out, the need to control, and the sort of impulsive outbursts, oftentimes which have nothing to do with reality. And it has oftentimes everything to do with their need to control and conceal and overcompensate for a very sort of maladaptive self-assessment of themselves and feeling at home and comfortable in a situation and relationship. So they tend to lash out oftentimes to the very people that they need, love, and actually would benefit from having around. Very different from a covert narcissist. There is shared and overlapping qualities, but the covert narcissist tends to not have this same impulsive rage, even though they do rage out when their supply is not there. The borderline really is, I would say, typified by a lot more judgment and impulsive rage and anger, which can be quite destructive, alienate and ostracize those people in their immediate environment. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help you. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.